In this section 2.6, I am going to talk about how to make interactive programs. At first, let me explain what an interactive program is. Programs generally need input on which to operate. For example, when the computer asks, "What is your name?" Here, computer asks, "What is your name?" I answered, "Steve." This is what I input. Then the computer takes the input I put in and prints out, "You are Steve." If I input Cindy like this, then computer will show, "You are Cindy." Likewise, when the computer asks the age, "How old are you?" and I input 23, then the computer will display, "You are 23 years old." If I input 25, then the computer will display, "You are 25 years old." The computer reacts to the input what I put in. This is an interactive program. To do this, we need to use a scanner class. The scanner class provides convenient methods for reading input values of various types. A scanner object can be set up to read input from various sources, including the user typing values on the keyboard. Keyboard input is represented by the system.in object. You will understand this shortly. To read input from the keyboard, we need to create a scanner object. The following line creates a scanner object that reads data from the keyboard. This line is very important. The new operator creates the scanner object. New operator creates scanner object. Actually, we have to use new operator whenever we want to create an object. I am going to explain about new keyword in chapter 3. System.in means keyboard. So this line lets computer create an object named scan to receive an input from the keyboard. And scan is the object name to receive the data. So actually this is the same. This line is the same as this one. So if you want to read data from the keyboard, at first make a scan object using new, and inside this parenthesis you need to put system.in. So I think this is a little bit strange to you. So I suggest you memorize this statement for now for reading input from the keyboard. Once created, the scanner object can be used to invoke variable input methods. There is an important thing when creating a scanner object. The scanner class is provided by Java. When using Java provided classes like this, you need to specify which package this class belongs to. To do this, we use import statement. So the scanner class exists in the java.until package. So if you want to use a scanner class, you have to import java.util package like this. So this is very important. If you don't put this line, a compile error will occur. So if you want to use a scanner class, always import statement should be here before the class statement. After creating a scanner object like this, you must make an object of scanner class. After creating this, we can read various data types using methods. By looking at the method name, you can see what type of data the method is reading. Here, scan.nextByte. Scan is the name from here, and scan.nextByte will read 1 byte, and then this will store the data into byte variable. And scan.nextShort will read 1 short data, and then will assign the value to short variable. Likewise, int data type is read and stored in int variable C. So next int will read int and then will store into C. Likewise, next long will read long data and then store into long. and read float, store into float, and read double, store into double data type. If you want to read strings, you can use next line or next. So these two lines are for string reading. The next line method reads all one line. That is, it reads all the contents entered until the user hit enter. However, our next method will only read one word. So if you want to read all lines, all one line, then use next line. And if you want to read just one word, use the next. We will look at detailed examples shortly. This code is to read the name and age using scanner object and print them out. This code will show this result. We need to create a scanner object called scan to read data from the keyboard. This is that part. I asked you, you should remember this statement to read data from the keyboard. And then I declare string data name, and I declare integer data age. The string variable name will store name input, and int variable age will store the age input. And then the computer will show enter your name on the screen, and scan the next will wait for user input. So user must input some string, then the string will be stored in name variable. And then the computer will print out UR and the name just received. So scan the next is the line for read the string input from the keyboard. And then the program will ask you enter your age. But this time age is int, so we need next int method. The computer expects that the user input an integer, and when one integer is entered, the number will be stored in age. So receive one integer, and then the integer will save in age. And then finally, the computer will print out UR and age just received and years old. This line, scan the close, is needed to disconnect the scan object from the keyboard input. Scan the close is non-mandatory. You don't have to write this, but I recommend to write scan the close when you don't need a scan object anymore. I just explained this code. Let me show you how to run this code. So I'm going to run this code like this. Then you see here, enter your name. This is the result of this print statement. And see, the computer waits for my input. So I click here and then I type Cindy. I typed Cindy. Then if I press enter here, the Cindy will go to name. Okay, so if I press enter, then Cindy will go to the variable name. And then Cindy goes here, and then the printout will show you are Cindy. And next, enter your age is printed out. And here I type 20. Then if I press enter here, I didn't press enter right now. So if I press enter right now, then 20 will go into age variable. Then you are 20 years old will be printed out. Okay, then I will press enter here. Then you are 20 years old. So can you understand how scanner and next works? I hope you understand, and at least you must do by yourself on your computer. This is an example from the textbook. To use a scanner class, at first you need to import java.util.scanner, and you need to make an object of scanner. And the computer will show enter line of text like this. and then computer doesn't do anything. The computer is just waiting for the user to input something. That's what scan the next line does. Here, scan the next line does, just waiting for user's input. And I input this sentence. Then this sentence will be stored in message variable. And finally, the computer will print this sentence, this string. And here, do you remember the escape sequence? Backslash, double quote, backslash, double quote. So because this escape sequence, here you can see double quotes like this. And finally, scan the close. This means that disconnect the scanner object and keyboard. Input tokens, unless specified otherwise, white space is used to separate the elements called tokens of the input. White space includes space characters, tabs, new line characters. So in this sentence, Java is created by James Gosling. There are 6 tokens. The next method of the scanner class reads the next input token and returns it as a string. That's why next method reads only one word. Contrast to this, next line reads all one line. Methods such as next int and next double read data of particular types. This is an example of next method. At first, we need to put input statement, input java.util.scanner. And then we need to make an object of scanner. Then the computer will show enter your message. And then it waits for the user input. So wait user input here. Here I input hello world. Like this, hello world. However, next method only takes one token. Only the first word hello. So only hello is stored into the message. Only hello is stored into the message. So the computer prints out your message hello. This is an example of next int. So import is needed and make a scanner object. And then the computer will show enter number of students. Then the computer will wait for the user's input here. So since this is next int, I input 250 integer number. Then this number will store into this variable, number of students. And then finally, the number of students is, and 250 is printed out. And then I close the scan object. And this is the next double method. So import the statement and scanner object, and computer will show enter your score, and computer will wait for user's input. So here the computer just waiting for user's input, and I input 94.7. Then this number will store in score variable, and the computer will display the score is the value of score, which is 94.7. This is an example from the textbook. The code calculates fuel efficiency based on values entered by the user. To do that, this code prompts for and reads number of miles and gallons of fuel used. The number of miles will be integer data, and the gallons of fuel used will be double data. So to do this, we need a scanner. So import java.util.scanner, and then we make a scanner object. And I declare here some variables to input data. So the computer will show, enter the number of miles, and miles will be an integer, so computer would expect integer data. So at this time, just wait here, and then I input 328. This number will be stored in miles variable. And then enter the gallons of fuel used will be printed out, and computer will receive double data. So I input 11.2 here, then 11.2 will be stored in gallons variable. Then the fuel efficiency will be calculated here, and finally the computer will print out miles per gallon and the result of this number. Now we have just finished chapter 2. Chapter 2 is very important. You have learned character strings, primitive data, the declaration and the use of variables, expressions and operator precedence, data conversions, and accepting input from the user. To be good at programming in Java, you need to know these things clearly. Watch the lecture video several times and study the examples in the lecture materials by performing them in Eclipse by yourself.